Councilmember Peter Sagan, can we do a sound check? Can you hear us?
Yes, yes. Can you hear me?
Yes, thank you.
All right, thank you.
Roll call. Yes. Councilmember Donahue,
Present.
Councilmember Shipman,
Present.
Councilmember Jorstad,
Present.
Councilmember Ewing,
Present.
and Councilmember Packett.
Present.
Great, we got the whole band together. Let's get an approval of the agenda, Council President.
All right, if everyone's had a chance to review, are there any additions, amendments? Okay, can I get a motion to approve the agenda?
Move to approve.
Oh, sorry.
Excuse me,
Got a hand up online.
Give me 1 second. Got my hand up, sorry. I
Yep,
don't know if you
go ahead.
called my name in the roll call or not, but I am here. I would like to ask that 10G be moved to an action item. I had received a email from a newly elected council member questioning that issue, and I would like to give that individual the opportunity to expand upon the comments that they made.
Okay, so with last night's parliamentary procedure training fresh in mind, I'll take that as a motion to amend the agenda. Have a second?
Yes.
Okay, all those in favor of amending the agenda?
Aye.
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 Okay, we now have an amended agenda. Any further discussion on that? Okay, could I please get a motion to pass the amended agenda?
Move to approve.
Second.
Got a motion and a second. Any discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Mr. Mayor, you have an agenda.
Okay. All right, we'll have to see how that goes because I don't think that person's in the audience tonight. So, let's go to citizens' comments then, or no, there's no guest business. Let's go to citizens' comments. Is there anyone who wishes to provide citizens' comments tonight to the Lake Stevens City Council? And let's go first online.
I don't see anybody yet. If you would like to speak to the city council during citizen comments, please raise your digital hand and I can let you into the meeting. No.
Okay, and then I have two green sheets, as we call them, for folks in the audience who wish to provide citizens' comments. Let's start out with Jerry Stombaugh.
Jerry Stumbaugh, 2514 85th Drive, Northeast, Unit AA4, Lake Stevens. For those that don't know me, I am the president of the board for your Lake Stevens Senior Center. And I want to thank Kim Shipman. She's usually doing the reporting for us. She attends all of our board meetings and everything else. Last couple of months, she's been so busy, she's missed, so I'm back. for at least one or two anyways. So I just want to catch you up and I'm going to just deal with the holiday area because you've heard about the rest. So I'll pick up at Halloween. We gave out again this year over 1,000 bags of candy and just not one piece and two piece. We tried a little experiment that didn't go over real well this year. We took black gloves and filled them with candy and it kind of scared the kids until we started telling them there's a surprise in there. Because all the fingers were stuffed with like, Rolos and yada, yada, yada. But it finally, we gave away 1,000 bags of them. So that was a big hit. Thanksgiving, we did seat 80 folks for Thanksgiving dinner. The big one is coming up for Christmas Day. That is, we've procured the meals, the presents, and now we just have to get them ready. And we are going to hold that down to 80 folks also. 80 seems to be a pretty magical number for us because we want them all out in the front room, none in the back room because they feel isolated if we do that. And that is on Christmas Day. We have a full-blown catered dinner for our seniors. They don't have to be a senior, don't even have to be a member, but it's free. We give them a turkey dinner with all the fixings served to them, and they also get a Christmas present to unwrap. That's just a little something we do for them. So that, my 2 minutes is almost up. So I want to thank the outgoing Kim Daughtry. We've known each other for a few years. And I think, I know you steered us in the right direction. Steve Ewing, we don't know each other that much, but we have spoken and I'm sorry to see you guys go. And then also Peter Sagan, who is on the line somewhere. Thank you for your service. Basically, that's it. Now I want to welcome, but I don't see anyways who the new folks are, but hopefully we can work together.
Thanks, Sherry.
Yeah.
Next up, we have Amy Lewandowski.
Tonight, I wanted to recognize and thank our outgoing council members who have served this community for so many years. Steve Ewing, Gary Peter Sagan, Kim Daughtry. Long-term service like yours is not easy, and it requires a deep commitment to something bigger than oneself. You've engaged in difficult conversations, agreed and disagreed well with others. One of my favorite guiding quotes is from Mitch Albom, author of Tuesdays with Morrie. The quote is, "So many people walk around with a meaningless life. The way you get meaning into your life is to devote yourself to loving others, devote yourself to your community around you, and devote yourself to something that gives you purpose and meaning. Your service reflects that truth. You have devoted yourself to this community in ways that have made a real and lasting difference. After years of service, it can be challenging to distinguish where you start and end as a council member because of the role becomes part of who you are. I know that being an elected council member is just one of the ways in which you give your time, talent, and treasure. Your service on numerous advisory boards, along with your volunteer efforts and support of our community not-for-profits, does not go unnoticed. That level of dedication makes you role models, not just for our future council members, but for our entire community. As you step away from these seats, I do truly believe that the best is yet to come for you guys in your personal lives. And to our incoming council members, may you honor this legacy by serving with care, integrity, a true commitment to our community by uplifting and cheering on the hard work that's in motion. To all of council, past, present, and future, city staff, employees, commissioners, and volunteers, thank you for your service and leadership. So Gary, Steve, and Kim, thank you for the true commitment that you have demonstrated to our community, the relationships that you have fostered, and the legacy that you leave behind.
Thank you, Amy. Appreciate the work.
Thank you, Amy.
With that, let's go to council business. Council President.
All right, we'll go ahead and start online with Councilmember Peter Sagan.
Nothing tonight. Thank you.
All right, thank you. Councilmember Packard.
Nothing tonight.
All right, Councilmember Ewing.
So is this separate from
7A, it says 7, is a standalone 7 or are you doing 7A?
We'll do 7A after y'all say your
Okay,
words.
so no comment.
Councilmember Dorset,
Thank you. I have nothing this evening.
Councilmember Shipman,
I had kind of a busy week. I attended the school board meeting and they had their new school board directors sworn in. So our new directors are Ryan Dixon for District Number 5 and Brian Kessler for District Number 4. So they were sworn in on Wednesday. The school board meetings are always a lot of fun. This time of the year, they only have one a month because everyone's so busy. And so they honored both their students of the month as well as our Apple Award winners, which are district staff. And there were just a couple quotes that made me chuckle that I wanted to share real quickly. One of the students of the month said that he didn't belong to any after-school activities because he likes to leave his afternoons open. So that became the goal of a few of the directors. Another one was talking about appreciating his siblings and the gratitude and said, but they do have the standard level of sibling annoyance. And finally, we had a high school student say the reason he liked LSMS is because they can eat lunch whenever he wants. So I thought that was made me smile. Hopefully it made you smile. I was surprised when one of the kids spoke about their pre-algebra class, and there were 39 students in that class. So the teachers obviously work hard to teach the 39 pre-algebra students, as well as the students ensuring they get their needs met and the help that they need in that classroom. So I was both surprised and impressed. Then on Saturday, I did go to Winterfest. And sorry, Mayor, I missed your Christmas tree lighting. I got hungry and I was over eating dinner at the Buzzin'. But I did see it afterwards and good job. The downtown looks very nice. We look very festive. Then last night I attended the Jurassic training here at the Mill, which just gave us all a refresher course on Robert's rules and how city council meetings should be run and how they're required to be run. So that was really informative and a great refresher training.
all right, thank you. Councilmember Daughtry.
I have nothing tonight.
Okay, the only things for me, I also attended the parliamentary procedures training last night. Thank you to the staff for organizing that, putting it on. It was fantastic. Definitely learned a lot. And then I attended the tree lighting as well, and I did see the tree light up. So congratulations, Mr. Mayor. Your average has increased. And yeah, kids had a great time. The side-by-side parade was a big hit. And anyone who didn't make it, I encourage you to try and make it next year because it was a lot of fun. Back to you.
Good stuff. Well, for those of you who don't know, tonight is the last city council meeting of three of our great city council members, Kim Daughtry, Gary Petersagen, and Steve Ewing. And we would like to take a moment to recognize them with a small token from the city. After that recognition, we're going to take probably 10, 15-minute break. We'll just call it 15 for some refreshments. And then we'll get back into city business. So if I could get, we got Steve and Kim up front. We got a little plaque for you guys. Gary, when you get back off the airplane, I'll be waiting by your bags with your plaque. All right, so the first one I'm gonna hand out is to Steve. Steve, 2020 to 2025, great run. 2019, I can't believe you. I got 2 weeks. Oh, that's right, you're right, that's right. Yeah. We'll get some white out. Great run, you've done some great things, you brought some great perspective to the council and true community worker, someone who was out there getting it done and really sorely missed. Yeah. Kim, this is 1776. So 2009 to 2025, Brent Kim. Wow, incredible service, countless hours away from family, and countless hours spent in your community, not only of your time, but your money, your great knowledge and resources, and yeah, you'll sort of do this. Yeah. There you go. You guys want to say a few words? That'd be wonderful. Gary, I got your plaque when you get back.
Can we
Thank you.
get dates?
Oh,
Can we
Gary's
like
dates,
announce
yeah.
his class?
So
Thank you.
Gary's dates are 2017 to 2025. I hope Gary's. Do I look like Gary? Or handsome?
Well, while they're sitting down, I have something to say really quick. So working with both these gentlemen and Gary online, they are all the type that none of them would ever ask to be recognized nor expect it. In fact, one of them, who will remain nameless, went so far as to send out an email saying that no city resources should be used to honor them. So in the true spirit of democracy and collaboration, I told the clerks to ignore them. So with that, I'll turn it over to you guys.
Kim, do you want?
Yes. Oh, okay, sorry.
You go ahead.
Are you gonna, no, go ahead. I thought we were all gonna.
I don't know what's going on.
That's okay.
I guess I can start. I want to thank Kim Daughtry. So Kim is the reason I got into city service. I followed, unlike some people, I actually was coming to council meetings for over 10 years before I even got on. I just watched what he did and how he did it. And there was no ego. And I was like, I hope one day that I can be like him. And after 6 years, I didn't come close. But I thank you, Kim, for your example to me. I'm a better person because of your service to our community and to our council. And Gary, I mean, 6 years on the planning commission and 9 years on the council. I mean, that is like super impressive. I mean, the planning commission is really hard work. And I appreciate not only what you and your wife and what you guys do for the community along with Debbie. And I guess I just want to throw a couple things out there. So it's like picking favorites with your kids, but I just want to identify. So Russ Wright, I just want to thank him for helping me on the planning commission. A mark of a really intelligent person is to be able to explain something to someone who knows far less than you do in a way that they can understand without making them feel less than. And Russ excelled at that. Not only when I was on the planning commission, also on the council. Land use issues are the hardest thing that we do, the most complicated in my view. And so thank you, Russ, for helping me be more successful on the planning commission and council because of that. So Shannon Ferrant, I don't know how many of you guys know, but when John Spencer was with the Department of Ecology, my dad was with the head of EPA for the state of Washington and then with the state of Alaska. And so they work together. So the environment is an important thing to me, despite what has been projected on social media. It is an important thing to me personally. So the fact that our lake water quality is the way that it is, I really appreciate Shannon and her team for the work that they've done there. And then I just want to thank Jeff Bezos. And this is personal, and I'm going to probably overshare here, but I'm going to do it anyway. So Jeff created a culture within his department of compassion and kindness. And I know there's people that dislike our police and they want to defund them and abolish them and do all that crazy stuff. When you get a police officer knocking at your door to do a welfare check, it's a scary experience. When you have someone you care about being taken away by the police and involuntarily taken away from you, that's a terrifying experience. I don't wish it on anyone. But I can tell you that the kindness and compassion of the people that have been so demonized by some who are present here has been a great blessing to our family. And I have no words, really adequate words, to be able to thank you, Jeff, and your people. And I will just say that in encountering many of your officers, some are nicer than others to deal with. And some have, it's just the way people are, right? But when life hangs in the balance, literally, there is no one that I'd want more than the men and women of the Lake Stevens Police Department responding. So thank you, Jeff, for that. Some of you know, and I just want to say thank you to Jeff and to the mayor, who had reached out during the worst period of our family's life while I was serving on council. And they reached out because they're decent human beings and because they care about people more than it had nothing to do with politics. It was just, hey, how are you doing? Is everything okay? Is there anything I can do to help? So thank you, Brett, and thank you, Jeff, for personally from the Ewing family, for what you have done for our family, independent of your public service. Two last things. I want to thank, so the best thing that I did as council, and the hardest thing I did as council was dedicate Lundin Park Bridge to the James Barnes Memorial Bridge. James Barnes was a friend of my son. They were classmates, and I drove him to and from class for a long time. And the bridge is where he passed away. And their family invited me to speak at that dedication of that bridge. Jeffrey Barnes, he and his husband live here in Lake Stevens, extraordinary people. And they're the ones that reached out to the city. And the city is the one that made that happen. So I drive by every day, several times, and I see those placards on there for those that struggle with mental health. And they even updated it to add the 988, which is the new number for suicide awareness. So I just really appreciate Jeffrey. He and his husband represent the very best of what Lake Stevens citizens offer. They care about people, and even when tragedy strikes, they look for ways to help others. So that's my 3 cents. Thank you.
Thank you, Steve. Gary?
I wish I was there in person to thank everybody, but a long trip that was planned long ago, so out of town, but I would like to echo Steve's comments and congratulate the staff. Over the years, I've worked in Mill Creek, Marysville, Granite Falls, Snohomish County, Everett jurisdictions in various ways, I guess you might say, as far as building and development. And I would say, without a doubt, we have one of the best staffs that I've come across. They're all dedicated, honest, professional people. And I just want to thank them for supporting us as council members. And, you know, it's been kind of a long haul here, but it has certainly made our decision-making process much easier with a very qualified professional staff. So I do thank them again. I'd like to thank Mayor Gailey. I'd like to thank Jean, and also Councilmember Donahue for all the time we spent at the utility committee together. Those are cherished moments, I guess you might say. But I just, it's been a pleasure. And, you know, certainly made some friends, learned a lot of things. It's a great experience, no regrets. And again, I'd just like to say thank you to the voters, Lake Stevens, for allowing me to serve. And it's been a great experience. So thank you.
Great. Thank you, Gary. Hey, with that, let's
What about other Kim?
you already did yours. Didn't you already talk?
Yeah, I'm done.
No, he moved on to Steve.
Oh, I guess we saved the best for last. All right, well,
See, other Kim.
Same,
spoke,
thanks.
not the-
that's maybe what it was.
We do
Yeah.
this, we get the other Kim.
The Kim with hair.
So I want to echo what everybody else has already said about the staff. The staff have been incredible for the last 18 years. I've been on council for 16, but I've been involved for 18. When I got on council, we didn't have very many staff. I think we were less than 24, Russ, is that right? Somewhere around 24, and now I don't know how many we have. I don't know everybody, and it kind of bothers me that I haven't been able to meet them all, but I like to work with them. I've worked with Public Works out on the streets with them and building the dock down here and all this trim work in the mill and putting up the big beams and all that kind of stuff. We had a lot of fun doing that. There's just so many things that we've done in the past 16 years that it's really hard to come to grips with all of the stuff that actually happened. Started as 7,500 people on December 31st of 2009, and January 1st, we went to 17,500. So that's, in one day, that's a big jump due to an annexation over there. But, it's still 10,000 people overnight. It's been an interesting time. There's so many people to thank and so many people to wish well. The staff are incredible. There's no doubt about it. I've been involved in just about everything in the county, watching things in Seattle and doing things with other people from many, many municipalities, and we've got the best staff that there is. The culture is awesome. I've never seen it like that anywhere else except community transit. Those two organizations are run really well, and I wish you all the luck.
Thank you, Kim. So with that, we would adjourn for, let's go 15 minutes. Let's return in
6:40.
6:40 to resume business.
Yeah.
Brett's from the chair. Yeah.
All right, let's go ahead and come back into session. And
My sobriety date.
I'd like to thank the clerks for their work on the plaques as well as the cake and just their overall everything that they do.
No.
Little mayor's business, just real quickly, I did have a opportunity yesterday to go down to Renton, and we had a public safety discussion with several other mayors and several legislators about things we might see in the upcoming session. And then as well as I had a meeting today with the county executive and other mayors about several things that are going on around the county, one of which is a public safety issue. The county council is looking at passing a 1 cent sales tax, public safety sales tax. But my concern with that, I have a lot of concern with it, but one of my concerns with that is there's no share back to the cities on that money. It would just all be for the county. So I would not support that tax at all. So with that, let's move forward to the consent agenda. We do have a consent agenda, and just a reminder that we moved 10G into a discussion item. So with that, can I get a motion to pass the consent agenda, please?
So moved.
Second.
I have a motion and a second. Is there any discussion on the motion? Hearing none, all those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
And any opposed? We do have item 10G, the 2 appointments to the Planning Commission. Council member Peter Shagan, you asked to pull that out. Could you expand on that, please?
Yes, I believe I mentioned it should be an action item. I'm not looking to hold it up. I just, I believe each of our council members received an email from an incoming council member questioning what we were doing and not fully understanding what their email was about. I did respond to it, but I thought it'd be appropriate, since that person has been attending the council meetings, to expand upon that and clarify what the heck they're talking about, to put it bluntly.
And I agree, my correction on that, that is still an action item, not a discussion item. We can't compel someone to speak. If she wishes to speak, that'd be Miss Edwards. She's more than willing to speak. I think prior to having her speak, though, I would like to have maybe council or city clerk Chellen, or maybe Russ Wright, to explain the process of which we pick commissioners and board members.
Yeah, I'll defer to Russ, who was involved in that committee.
Okay. So there's a council policy that there are council members appointed as liaisons to interview board and commission members. It always includes the director of that department and the chair of that board. There's a thorough vetting process. The candidates go through a background check, and they are asked a series of questions about their volunteerism, their interest in supporting the city in the various role, and then technical questions as it relates to that board and commission. Upon the end of that interview process, a recommendation is made to the mayor, who then brings it forward to the council for action.
Okay. Thank you, Russ. So with that, if you wish to speak, that's okay. If you do, go ahead and take 3 minutes.
Hi there, Tasha Edwards here, and I'd like to clarify, I didn't send that email as an incoming council member. I sent that email as probably my last citizen comment that I will be able to make in the near future. So to clarify, I wasn't gonna come out and say this in public. I wanted to share my concerns with you directly, but since one council member here wants to have me explain, I will take the opportunity to do that. So we have several positions that were open for commissions and boards, 2 of those being our planning commission. As you very well know, and as has been mentioned numerous times by sitting council members, there are accusations of lack of trust and lack of transparency when it comes to building specifically in our community. I think that the city council and the mayor and the city in general need to be very intentional when they're picking people to go onto these commissions. And this is by no means anything personally against any of the people who have been chosen for these commissions. However, as a citizen, I feel like, again, council and city should be very intentional with who they're choosing and making sure that there is no possibility of any accusations being given as far as nepotism or putting builders on our planning planning commission. So I just want to, Mayor Gailey reached out and asked me for some clarification. So I wrote a quick email to kind of clarify, and I'm just going to read that to you now. I tend to project my thoughts a little better in writing than I do in person. So to clarify the purpose of my email, I was not alleging impropriety in the process itself or suggesting that any rules or procedures have been violated. Okay, so let me just make that clear. My intent is to raise concern about public perception, which we have an issue with, right? And the appearance of fairness when it comes to people being appointed to commissions and other positions of power in our community. Particularly bodies that exercise quasi-judicial authority. We keep hearing from council in meetings that there are unfounded accusations of no transparency or trust, so I thought that you might like to know what kind of things are giving that perception to the public. This is a perfect example. My concern is that when appointments are made in good faith and in compliance with policy, the presence of real or perceived conflicts, like someone on the planning commission who intends to develop in Lake Stevens, can undermine the public confidence in our ability to maintain fairness.
Mayor Gailey, we're at 3 minutes.
Take a few minutes.
I believe it's important for the council to be mindful of that and to consider whether additional outreach or a broader applicant pool could help reinforce public trust, specifically around planning and development. So if there's not a person who has applied for a commission position that is right for that position, we need to broaden our reach and get more applicants and recruit more applicants, not just pick someone. So anyhow, thank you for giving me the opportunity to clarify, and I'm happy to answer any questions.
I don't want to get into a debate up here, so we're not going to do questions for Ms. Edwards.
Sure.
Well said.
Discussion.
Thank you.
Good job.
Discussion.
So I have a comment to make. So I sat on last week was the only week that I've missed of our boards and commissions in 6 years. And I would just say overwhelmingly that we have outstanding candidates. And I just am thankful for the people. Being on planning commission is thankless. It's really hard work. It's long hours, and you don't set your work agenda. So anyone who thinks that, hey, I'm a builder, I'm in a development Lake Stevens, I don't set the planning for the meetings. I have zero say in what happens. The city directs all that, the city council. So for anyone that thinks that even if I were developing Lake Stevens, that I have no opportunity to sway that. So I think that needs to be clarified. That you have zero say in the work plan for the planning commission. Am I off base on that? Russ? I've never been able to direct in the years that I was on planning commission, say, hey, I want this discussed. We're like, hey, you're reviewing the comp plan or you're doing the whatever, right?
There is a work plan that's established at the end of the outgoing year that's ratified by the council. And then generally the every month's commission deals with the topics that have gone onto that long-range work plan that both the planning commission and the city council have looked at and discussed jointly.
Thank you.
Okay, so I gotta weigh in on this. There have been many accusations over the years of impropriety with this council. The most recent of which was our deceased council member Marcus Tagent when the Costco project was coming in. He happened to be the person that, or the realtor that was in charge of selling that piece of property. And I want everybody to realize that there is another thing called recusal when you're in a position of power like this, and you have to recuse yourself when there is any even thought of I can't even say the word.
Impropriety.
Yeah, that one.
Byword.
When you're doing something, and in that particular case with Councilmember Tagent, every time the council even thought about Costco, he got up and left the room because he's not allowed to be in here. It's a conflict of interest, direct. If you have a builder, which I would hope that someday we might have a developer being on a planning commission because they have a lot to bring to the table of information for the planning commission. It would be just one more voice of information that they would know, have the knowledge, that expert person to come in and talk about what's going on with our comp plan or whatever else that the commission is looking at. If there was a direct conflict with that developer looking at something on the commission, they would recuse themselves and the staff would make sure that happens. So to say that that kind of stuff is going to happen on our commission, it's just, okay, great. I can see where people might think there's something going on, but you can go to just about anywhere in this city and you can look back for years and years and years, and it's never happened. It's just a point of clarification for me to tell you that it has not happened. I have recused myself on something I didn't have to. But I went to legal and I said, do you think that I should recuse myself because of what I'm doing over here? Happened to be something with going on with the chamber at the time, and I was on the chamber board. They said, no, you're not going to be making money on that yourself. But if you feel like you need to recuse yourself because you're on the chamber board, then go ahead and recuse yourself. And I did. When that came up for a vote, I left the room, didn't make any comments, and that's the way it works. And that's the way we do it. And anybody's going to go through the training that you're going to be going through to get on this council, you're going to see how that works.
Any other discussion, Nathan?
Yeah, I fully appreciate the points. Yeah, I agree. Commissioner Ewing, you don't, on the planning commission, you don't get to decide what the agenda is. Commissioner Daughtry, I fully appreciate that that's the reality. I think it's just important to recognize Ms. Edwards' comment of there's a perception. I'm not saying that we should make a change. I just want it to be clear that perception can be reality sometimes, and it can come back to impact our community, right? So we can't be oblivious to the fact, right? We can't just pretend that that reality isn't there or the perception isn't there. That's all I'm trying to say, right? We need to be aware that there can be that perception. And if we're going to proceed, we need to do that with full recognition that there could be consequences. And if we're comfortable living with those consequences, that's great. But we shouldn't suggest, well, that's not what happens and everybody's just going to be aligned and understand that, because the public doesn't understand that. So that's all.
Gary, go ahead.
I'm going to comment on your comment, Nathan. Perception is not reality. There has never been an instant where the perpetrators of this allegation have brought forth any kind of factual evidence that anything has taken place in this city. I don't know since when. So if you want to create a perception, go for it. It's very easy to do. But reality and facts are what matter. And until somebody brings forth something that documents that there's been something egregious going on with our city council, it's nothing but hot air. So perception is not reality. And if you want to think that, that's fine, but it's just, it's nothing but hot air. So I challenge anybody to bring anything forth that this council has done that has given favoritism to anyone in regards to the real estate community.
Go ahead, Kim.
I just want to say that while I certainly recognize what everybody's saying, and everybody has a valid point here, I think we need to be careful as a city council, a planning commission, we've got salary commissions, we've got all kinds of commissions that help us with the city. And I think we need to be careful regarding making decisions based upon public perception. In other words, I believe public perception is important, but maybe brainstorm communication ways so that they do understand how things happen. Because until you're involved in the city, unfortunately, most information is gained off social media, and you probably could maybe fill a thimble with what was accurate. So maybe we don't have a perception challenge as much as a communication challenge with our citizens. But I think it would be a slippery slope to start changing things based upon how it's going to be perceived versus how it actually is. And that's really all I want to say about that, I guess.
Good answer.
Thank you. I'm going to try to be brief. I was on the committee that made the decision about who to bring forth onto the Planning Commission. And this was my first time. So I really appreciated the opportunity to be a part of that conversation. I think I'm a person who can generally see both sides. I do think it's important to be mindful of, public perception. And what I'll say about perception is social psychology will say, if you have 10 people that watch a car accident and you ask those 10 people what happened, you're going to have 10 different stories. And each one of those 10 people are going to believe wholeheartedly that their story is exactly what happened. Perception is that person's reality. And I think it is something that it's important for us to be mindful of. I want to agree with Councilwoman Shipman. I think we have a communication issue. This is such a great opportunity to share information and to communicate about the process and to get facts about how the process works and why it's important to have, I think, a diversity of thought on our boards and commissions. It's important to have 7 people that come from very different walks of life that can bring their own perspective, that can bring their perception, that can bring their lens to make the decisions for this city. So I can understand and hold both truths. I'm glad that we're having this discussion. I hope it brings information to folks that maybe didn't have that information before now.
If you need to, go.
I do. As the liaison, I feel compelled to speak. So I want to avail myself of the opportunity here to perhaps share a little information and just kind of sum up what Planning Commission is. This isn't going to be definitive on the perception point, but Planning Commission is a group of citizens who donate their time and they provide recommendations to this council. They hold public hearings, but I don't want anyone listening or watching this to hear words like authority and decision and think that this is some group that's, secretly influencing development within the city. They look at information presented to them by the staff, they evaluate it, they make a recommendation, and then that comes to us for a decision. So if you are at all concerned about decisions being made in the city regarding planning development, we love having participation. Come to the meetings, talk to us, email us. This is where the decision is made. So just please, recognize that the planning commissioners are donating their time to help us, but this is where the decision lies.
I'd like to make one brief point. I just want to clearly communicate that I am not suggesting and never have suggested any impropriety on this board. In fact, I've been adamant and clear online to defend the current council members, right, and their positions and their history and their past and their integrity, et cetera. So I am not suggesting at all that there has been anything wrong or will happen. I simply just want to say that I think it's important for us to consider the perception. We at least need to be aware of the perception. That's all.
Great. And I think just my few words is I would refer you to multiple clean state audits from a state government who would love to find improprieties in the city government. So with that, Can I get a motion to pass this, this recommendation, please? And if we
So
could,
moved.
from the staff report, that'd be great.
I move to appoint James Sauls to the Planning Commission, position 2, with a term expiring December 31st, 2026, and Amy Lewandowski to the Planning Commission, position 7, with a term expiring December 31st, 2027.
Second.
Okay, I have a motion and a second. Is there any more discussion on the motion, or is there any discussion on the motion? Hearing none, all those in favor?
Aye.
And any opposed? Okay, motion passes. So let's move forward to public hearing, which is the man, that's like an impropriety. Repager development agreement with David. And I'll go ahead and open up this public hearing.
All right. Thank you, Mayor Garely, council members, David Levitan, principal planner. So we are here tonight for a public hearing for a proposed development agreement that was submitted to the city back in the summer of 2025. I'm going to give just a really quick overview. The applicant is available to provide some comments, and then there will be an opportunity for public comments as well. And at the conclusion, I'm happy to answer any questions in advance of the public comments or following those. So kind of already went over that, but just a little bit of a highlight on development agreements. We went over this a couple of times during your work sessions on this topic, but this is a type 6 land use application, so legislative in nature. It's pretty unique in that it's one of the few legislative applications that does not go to the Planning Commission, kind of germane to what was just discussed. So this goes straight to the City Council. The intent is to help to provide certainty and flexibility regarding development regulations, the process involved, responsibilities of each party, one of them being the city. And then it's subject to the decision criteria that's included in Section 1416C 055 of the Lake Stevens Municipal Code. And that addresses things like compatibility with the comp plan, with development regulations, and then kind of provides an avenue and an opportunity for the city to require adequate mitigation and to make sure that we reserve our authority through other channels and through other processes. So as far as this specific proposal, so it is relatively unique when it comes to development agreements. It's essentially establishing the framework for future land use actions that would be required. So in this case, there is what's called the Ripperger, the KNA property, which is on 99th Avenue Southeast, north of 20th Street Southeast, kind of just east of 15th. And that is currently zoned multifamily residential. The applicant has an interest in developing that site with detached single-family residences that wouldn't be allowed under the current zoning, under the current development regulations, the minimum density specifically. So they are proposing essentially a transfer of density to another site that they control off of South Lake Stevens Road, just north of 20th Street Southeast. That's the lower image. And so this would require rezones on each of the properties. So the property on the north would be rezoned from multifamily residential back down to R812, which is what the zoning was prior to the adoption of the 2024 comp plan and concurrent rezones. And then to allow for that transfer of density, they are proposing to rezone the property on South Lake Stevens Road from R812 to multifamily residential. It would require a rezone, but the existing land use designation of high density residential would not require a comp plan amendment, so it would only require a rezone. And so that would allow for basically those additional 38 units below the minimum density on the sending property, for lack of a better term, for that to be accommodated on the receiving property there on South Lake Stevens Road. So we did go over this in a couple of work sessions over the last several months, initially on July 15th, and then briefed you just really quickly on December 2nd at the end of a relatively long meeting. So went over kind of the different processes, the level of review, kind of outlined some of the proposed mitigation. A lot of the focus, especially at the initial meeting back in July, was on potential traffic impacts, and specifically at the intersection of South Lake Stevens Road and South Davies Road. And since that meeting, staff has worked with the city attorney and with the applicant to revise the development agreement that's proposed before you tonight, and which is included as attachment 1, to make sure that we adequately reflect some of those concerns. So that development agreement that is included as attachment 1, it includes multiple sections. Some of the most important ones are section 2, which notes that a rezone would be required on each of the properties, and that a central tenet of that analysis is going to be consistency with the comp plan and consistency with the Growth Management Act, that basically requires the city, the applicant, to demonstrate that the city would not fall below the necessary zone capacity to provide housing opportunities at all income levels as required by the Growth Management Act. So that is outlined in section 2. Section 3 outlines the density calculations and requirements. Section 4 and 5 addresses the issue of transportation concurrency and really focuses on that intersection at South Lake Stevens Road and South Davies Road. Potential kind of initial design, survey, and analysis work to try to determine what would be the most appropriate design of any necessary improvements to provide an adequate level of service there at the intersection. Section 6 outlines the SEPA requirements and specifies that at the project level, these projects both would be subject to project level SEPA review. Section 7 discusses some of the vested rights. Basically, development agreements typically vest you, or there's the opportunity to vest applicants to the development regulations in place at the time the development agreement is approved. That's to provide certainty to the applicant. And then exhibits A and B include the legal descriptions and conceptual site plans for each property. So this is, as a type 6 land use application, requires public notice for the notice of public hearing. It is only required to be published in the newspaper, but we also did make sure that it was available on the website, that it was posted at City Hall. This would be categorically exempt from SEPA at this stage, but it would be subject to SEPA at the actual development stage. We have received public comments from one individual who submitted several emails, which are in attachment 2, generally expressed opposition to the development agreement. A lot of that focused on their belief that this is following so closely behind the adoption of the 2024 comprehensive plan and the concurrent rezones that went along with that, that it seems a little bit too early to be immediately, the perception is this would be backtracking on a lot of the public engagement and the analysis that went into that on a more holistic level for the city. And so I would note that the requirement for the rezones, this would be subject to the decision criteria and the findings necessary for those rezones. And there's nothing that would prevent the applicant for applying for the rezones without the development agreement, but the city believes that there are some benefits, which will be discussed on the next slide. So as far as staff's analysis and recommendation, summarizing what's included in your staff reports, the applicant, staff does not, based on the proposal, staff does not believe that this would result in a reduction in the city's ability to meet its overall zone capacity, especially for housing types affordable at or below 80% of area median income. And that, again, would be a central requirement of the analysis that would be conducted as part of the rezone applications. The proposal is consistent with the decision criteria. There were some questions from council as far as some of the benefits to the city. Kind of first and foremost is the applicant being responsible for some of the initial design and survey work for that intersection there at South Lake Stevens and South Davies, demonstrating the continued ability to meet our 2044 growth targets, And then just when thinking about the site, and this, doesn't replace the analysis that's going to be required for the rezone, but in general, the receiving area that's proposed to be rezoned to multifamily residential is within walking distance of a commercial hub there at 20th Street Southeast and thus South Lake Stevens Road. So it does seem appropriate at least to consider the development agreement to establish the general framework that would then be implemented through the rezone and any potential development applications that follow that. So with that, staff is recommending that council approve the application, which is LUA 2025-0090, and then authorize the mayor to sign the development agreement that's shown in attachment 1.
So David, 0050 or 0090?
It's 0090. I should have pointed that out. In the staff report, I had a typo that referenced 0050, but the accurate number is 0090.
All right, any questions for David?
Yeah, David, can you go back to the last slide? Your item 1, the proposal would not reduce the city's overall zone capacity. So I didn't go through and calculate all the numbers. So we're saying it actually isn't going to go down, or it's not going to go below the threshold that's needed to maintain the requirements.
Yeah, I should have, the zone capacity to meet the requirements. We haven't done a full analysis. I mean, this is the general framework for the agreement. So that's something that can be further analyzed as part of the required rezone applications, but it wouldn't result in the city falling below the required zone capacity to accommodate its growth targets. We basically have a large surplus at anything above 100% of area median income, whereas we had a deficit, which required some of the rezones that were involved as part of the 2024 comp plan. This is focused on really the below market rate housing, and that's what that speaks to. So the zone capacity at those lower income levels.
So sorry, I just need to clarify. So the zone capacity at those lower income levels, there's a chance that the actual number of units could go down below what the original plan is, but it wouldn't push us below the threshold as part of the comp plan. Is that correct?
Correct. I mean, within the multifamily residential zone, there's no maximum density. So it's possible that on the property that's on 99th Avenue Southeast, depending on site constraints, including environmental constraints, I mean, they're limited basically by maximum impervious surface, by critical areas, by maximum building height. So it could be that they have the potential for several hundred units on that site, but the buildable lands report, factoring in some of those environmental constraints, did not have nearly that number. So it's basically right about a wash, but that would be evaluated, in further detail. But we can say authoritatively that it wouldn't drop us below, it wouldn't bring us out of compliance with the Growth Management Act as far as the growth targets.
Thank you.
Anything else for David? Okay, hearing no further questions, I'm going to go ahead and open up the public comments portion of this public hearing. Is there anyone who wishes to speak just on this subject for the council?
Yeah, Ms. Ray, if we could maybe start with the applicant, just to provide them with an opportunity.
Okay.
Good evening, council. My name is Ryan Larson. I'm with the applicant's representative. Thanks again for letting a public hearing to occur on the Ripplinger developer agreement. I would like to start up front by stating I've reviewed the staff report prepared by David Levitan dated December 16th, 2025, and fully concur with the staff report and the findings and conclusions within, and I fully support his presentation tonight. Also, we have been working with city staff and the attorney on the developer agreement identified as attachment 1 for the last several months. We fully support the final version of the developer agreement as identified on the staff report as attachment 1. The developer agreement is being proposed to set the framework for how the proposed rezones are to move forward for both the KNN property, Holdings property, and the South Lake Stevens Ridge property. The transfer of development rights and concurrency requirements for the proposed developments on the South Lake Stevens or the South Lake Ridge property. As stated in the developer agreement, both the KNA Holdings property and the South Lake Ridge property will be required to submit rezone applications in order to rezone each of the proposed properties. The KNA property would be rezoned from MFR to R812, and the South Lake Ridge property would be proposed to be rezoned from R812 to MFR. No changes are required to the comprehensive plan or to the comprehensive plan future land use map in order to make these rezones possible. The developer agreement as written ensures that the density that would have been fully achieved on the KNA property will be realized on the South Lake Ridge property as identified under Section 3 of the developer agreement. In addition, the developer agreement sets forth the framework for future development on the South Lake Ridge property to meet its concurrency requirements by requiring the applicant to survey the intersection of South Lake Stevens Road and South Davies Road, requires the applicant to perform an intersection control evaluation, which is also known as the ICE report, which is a requirement by WashDOT for the intersection, and to do a conceptual phase and geometric layout of a potential roundabout at that intersection. This information can be utilized by the city in the future to apply for grants for fully funding the design and construction of that intersection. The benefit of the developer agreement is for the applicant to perform the necessary function of the city by analyzing this intersection and the applicant's expense and providing the information to the city for future grant applications. If the developer agreement is not approved, then this will be a burden on the city. The applicant has invested in the facility as well for the South Lake Stevens Ridge property by installing a sewer lift station to the site already. This sewer lift station will handle the capacity for any future development on the property. Finally, I have 20 years of previous experience in the public sector, 10 years of which I was a planning director for 2 different cities in the state of Washington. And unfortunately, I served as a council member in Snohomish County as well. I have managed 3 comprehensive plan periodic updates and multiple comprehensive plan yearly dockets. One of the most important things during the updating process is to understand that the comprehensive plan is not a stagnant document, but actually always evolving and being rethinked year in and year out by not only council, not by the planning commission, not staff, by everybody throughout the years. I would like to emphasize again that the developer agreement does not in any way change or modify the comprehensive plan, text, or comprehensive plan future land use map. In fact, the developer agreement ensures that the proposed future rezones of both properties carry out the intent of the comprehensive plan and achieves the required densities that are identified in such. Any questions?
Great, thanks, Ryan.
Thank you.
Let me go first online. Is there anybody online who wishes to provide comments?
There is. Let me bring her in. Sally Jo Sebring. Just seconds, she'll be here.
Okay.
All right, Sally Jo Sebring, you're in the meeting.
Great.
Thank you. You have 3 minutes.
Thank you. Sorry, I'm just a little bit under the weather, so that's why I'm not there in person. And my voice might be a little bit scratchy, but so I emailed all the council members and, I know a number of you read what what I wrote a couple days ago. I just want to add a couple things. One thing is kind of minor, but important. In David's staff report, Planner Leviton's staff report, there's mentioned, which he did not mention tonight. So I wonder if he realized that there was kind of maybe a misunderstanding. So there's a statement about it being the SLR site, the Dawson site being walkable to transit on 20th. And I just want to be clear that there's no transit east of 99th Avenue Southeast. So the closest transit route is on the corner of 99th Southeast and 20th. So it doesn't go any farther east than that. So just so you know, it's not coming down to Tom Thumb. It's not coming, it would be at least a 0.6 mile walk. And that's not undoable. I just want to clarify that the transit does not run farther east anywhere near this site. So let me see. I guess I'm going to push back a little bit on the statements that the zone capacity is going to be met, that won't bring us out of compliance. And I caught Mr. Larson's words that land use is not changing, and I understand that, but that's not what our zone, I mean, that's obviously an important thing, but for the comp plan, what we really needed to do was make sure there was enough MFR zoning, and that doesn't require different land use if you're already in high residential density or whatever it's called, HDR. But anyhow, so yes, it's true that it doesn't change the land use, but the development agreement, to me, if the city knew that it met the capacity, it wouldn't require that the zoning, the rezones would have to, the developer would have to prove that the rezones meet the capacity because they'd already know it. So to me, I do think that there is some question there. And just one quick thing, the swap, the average, net average for the, so this is after they take out, things that are required in development, is 6.89 for the Ripperger property. It's 2.12 acres for the SLR site. That's the total in the comp plan for moving, that we moved to multifamily residential was 27.9 net acres.
3 minutes.
The difference here is 4.77 acres, which is 17% of the property, net property that we moved. To me, that seems significant. Thank you.
Thank you, Sally. Anybody else online? Yeah. Sure.
This is why there's problems with our perception and the communication. I have a property that's real close to where this is getting proposed to be built.
I need you to identify who you are, please.
Dave Brooks, 1528 South Lake Stevens Road.
Thank you.
You're taking a bigger piece of property and you're going to develop what he was going to do on a bigger piece of property into a smaller piece of property. When I built my home at my current address, I had to jump through a million hoops just to stay in the same footprint for my building. I couldn't exceed the permeable ground that was already done by 1 inch. This property has the same problems that my property has, yet you're going to let them put in an apartment complex. I just don't see how that's possible. And it just, the traffic and the everything is just going to be a mess. And I just would hope that as our elected members, you would listen to us. And when we say we don't want something, maybe listen. That's pretty much all I got to say.
Thank you. Sir.
Hi, Gary Bartleheimer, 1516 South Lake Stevens Road. I thank the council for giving me the opportunity to speak here. I want to address a couple of things about this project. First of all, there are environmental concerns. The Dawson property is currently partially backfilled wetlands, and the remainder is still wetlands. There is a year-round creek running right on the border of my property that is fed through these wetlands. And anything that their proposal to fill that whole thing, it's going to have effects on the creek at my house that has fish in it, has wildlife. And so there's the environmental concerns. There's obviously the traffic concerns. But then I had another thing too. I mean, I'm hearing from David and from representative from the developer, I'm sorry, I forgot his name, how they can make this work and fit within all the zoning codes and restrictions. But I don't hear anything about a benefit to the city, let alone to the South Lake Stevens community. And then in the report that the staff report, right there, it says, talks about a diversity of different types of housing. Well, there's already apartments down there and there's lots of single family, but there are no townhouses. And now we're going to eliminate the townhouses, or their proposals to eliminate townhouses and put in more multifamily. But I think to have that diversity, you want to keep the townhouses in there. But you're squeezing a lot on a very small piece of property, and it just doesn't really quite fit in that neighborhood right there. That's probably all I have to say. I'm sorry, I only had a short time to review this thing. I only got a hold of it earlier this afternoon. So.
Great. Thank you. Appreciate your comments. Yeah. Ma'am.
Christina Brooks, 1528 South Lake Stevens Road. I would just like to really echo on the last couple speakers, what they had said, to please don't just view your growth potential and the lines on a map. Think about the whole community, the community that not only includes the people that live here, who are already struggling to even get out of their driveways. You're going to add another 100 cars next door, but also the community that includes the environment, the whole watershed that Lake Stevens depends on. And if you look at the map that they pulled up, you're going to see that that little tiny strip they want to cram all of those properties into is green. All around it is green. One of the last oases left in this area. You don't want to cram as much as possible in there. I strongly suggest you keep the zoning as it is. I think it was there for a reason, and this wetland really can't support that many more people put into that small area. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Chrissy. Anybody else? Okay, I'm gonna go ahead and close the public comments portion of this hearing. David, open the floor back to you.
Yeah, I mean, if there are any questions specifically from council or any specific items that you'd like me to address, I would just note on the critical areas issue, whether the development is for townhomes, whether it's for single family homes, whether it's for apartments, it is going to be evaluated and required to comply with the city's critical areas ordinance. The SLR property or Dawson property, as it's been known, kind of within the neighborhood, did go through a preliminary subdivision for those 28 townhomes. And that basically established the buffers and essentially kind of formalized that the gravelled area essentially was the extent of the wetland buffers, and the proposal as far as the conceptual site plan wouldn't extend beyond that and result in any additional impervious surface area beyond what's already been evaluated at the preliminary plat stage and at the construction plan stage. So that wouldn't be increasing potential impacts on the critical areas. And I just would really like to emphasize the rezone evaluation, the rezone applications do have their own decision criteria, and those are referenced, and the ability of those rezones to demonstrate compliance with the growth targets are referenced because that consistency with the Growth Management Act and consistency with the comp plan is a major component of a rezone application. So I wouldn't take that discussion and that analysis to be the city trying to really focus or to justify something that maybe can't be justified. It's basically just trying to note what is going to be the most important component of those rezone applications, which again could be submitted without the development agreement, but we do believe that there is some benefit to the city from the development agreement as far as some of the potential improvements to address transportation concurrency. So happy to answer any questions either before or after council discussion.
Any questions for David?
Gary's got.
Gary, go ahead.
Yes, David, could you expand upon the existing traffic situation at South Lake Stevens, South Davies Road, as to what the current condition is right now and what the condition will be, assuming this rezone goes forward? And then the second part of that is, could you explain a little bit of the rezone approval process, assuming we approve the...
Yeah, so as far as the existing conditions at that intersection, so there is a little bit of conflicting information from traffic studies that have come out over the last year. So there was a traffic analysis done as part of the 2024 comprehensive plan, which showed an adequate level of service of LOSC at that intersection. We've since had a number of development applications in the southeast portion of the city that have demonstrated that with projects within the development pipeline, that would result in a LOSF or failing level of service at that intersection. And so that's kind of part of the emphasis of transportation concurrency is one, that needs to be further addressed as part of additional transportation analysis. And two, if it is demonstrated to have that level of service that does not meet the requirements within the comp plan from a concurrency perspective, and concurrency is basically demonstrating that there's adequate infrastructure in place to meet level of standards adopted by the city, that it would help to provide that needed infrastructure, in this case, transportation infrastructure. So as far as, and so there's a concept of nexus and proportionality I should touch upon just briefly, is that say there's a failing intersection and there's a project that's estimated to contribute 2% of the trips that go through that intersection, it wouldn't be considered constitutional to make them pay for that entire improvement. There wouldn't be the nexus or basically the proportionality between their potential impacts. And so that's why there's some language within that section on concurrency that this initial work would be credited towards their proportional share of any necessary improvements at that intersection, and then would potentially be credited back later based on the amount that they spend and what their proportional share is determined to be once the cost of any intersection improvements are calculated. As far as rezone applications, so those are type 4 applications. So they are quasi-judicial. There is a public hearing that's held before the hearing examiner. So again, this wouldn't be a legislative item, so it doesn't go to the planning commission for a recommendation. It goes to the hearing examiner, typically land use attorneys that are very well versed in the city's code, that evaluate the proposal against the decision criteria that are within the municipal code. Basically, the two most prominent are consistency with the comp plan, consistency with the Growth Management Act. And so those applications would both be required. They would go through the hearing examiner. The hearing examiner would make a recommendation to the city council, who would then hold a closed record public hearing, meaning that they could consider any information that had already been provided. And then the city council ultimately would make the decision on whether the rezones are approved or not. And so there is kind of at the very top level, there's the comp plan, then there's the development agreement below it, then there would be the rezones, and then there would be any necessary development applications, whether that be a preliminary subdivision, whether that be a site plan review for an apartment building. There would be kind of multiple levels of review that would be required before any potential site development could occur.
So just to make it clear to the audience, the hearing examiner, if we do go through with this and they go to do the hearing examiner does is an open meeting where you can make comments to the hearing examiner on exactly what you just shared with us, actually, on whatever you want to share with them to make that happen. When it comes back to the council at that point, if the hearing examiner passes it through to the council, then the only comments that could be made would be ones that have already been made to the hearing examiner. That's what the director just said. I'm not director, but planner. But there's opportunity for public comment to the hearing examiner. See, so what we want to do as a city is make sure that you know when those are going to happen. So we need to get you to sign up for those kinds of things on the website or however you want to do it, but talk to the planning director or whoever in planning for that, David, for instance. So you get on a list, so you get the information about when that hearing examiner is going to have their day. You understand what I'm trying to tell you? Okay, that's important because there have been times in the past where we have heard from citizens that they didn't know about the hearing examiner, didn't hear about that meeting, or they didn't know. So I want you to be informed however we can do that, so you don't miss that.
And if I could just note that being a quasi judicial application, the rezones, those are sent out to all property owners within 300 feet of the property. There's land use notice boards that are required to be posted along any public right of way. It's required to be published. It's in the newspaper, posted at City Hall, posted on the city website. So we do try to get the word out in as many ways as possible, and that's codified within the municipal code. Those are things that if we didn't do, that the application could be found to be not consistent with the municipal code.
Any other questions?
I have a question. Planner Levitan, the conceptual site plan for the property on 99th, it looks to me is for 65 units. Is that accurate?
Correct.
Okay. Are there any infrastructure concerns with approving that in that area? Any concerns about any intersections or the ability to handle 65 new residences?
No, we don't have any identified level of service issues along 99th or any trip distribution that would occur from the site. So basically, this is it's relatively close geographically, but because it's not essentially within a trip distribution that would utilize that intersection at South Lake Stevens Road and South Davies, most of the traffic would either go north kind of up towards Market, or it would come south towards 20th. It wouldn't kind of loop around and then go north on South Lake Stevens Road. So we don't have any identified, especially transportation infrastructure issues. There was assumed to be within the land capacity analysis that we did, multifamily residential development. It would have been a higher number of units, but the way that trip generation works is that for apartments, the trip generation rate is about half and potentially more like 0.4, 40% of what it is for a detached single family residence. So you could have an apartment building, 100-unit apartment building that actually has fewer trips generated than 50 detached single family residences. And that's due to unit size and household size and a number of other factors. And so those are all things that would be analyzed as part of the rezone, and especially as part of any future land use applications that would be required to allow for development. And kind of conversely on the other sites, the potential additional trip generation would need to be accounted for in the traffic impact analysis and the concurrency determination in the SEPA threshold determination. So there are multiple different avenues and channels to analyze potential environmental impacts and potential utility and infrastructure impacts.
So it sounds like then the site on 99th could actually better manage a higher density with the current infrastructure without sort of pushing any of the nearby roads or intersections over into a level of service that is unsatisfactory. So if the developer decided wants to build an apartment complex, if we want more density, which, we've talked about that multiple times on the council. I guess what I'm getting at is, isn't the 99th Avenue Southeast site more equipped to manage increased density than the site off of South Lake Stevens Road?
I think the 99th Avenue site, that was factored into the decision to rezone the property from RA12 to MFR. So that was kind of what went into the decision in the city's need to rezone properties to accommodate additional multifamily residential units. I think that did factor in to why this site was proposed to be rezoned to MFR as opposed to the South Lake Stevens Road site. That being said, the applicant has submitted this request that they would prefer to accommodate their multifamily residential development on the South Lake Stevens Road site, the SLR site, and that they are, interested in applying for those rezones. And so, from the city's perspective, as far as the development agreement application that they've submitted, we're trying to provide as much benefit to the city as possible based on their desire to have specific land uses on specific sites.
Thank you. I appreciate that.
Any other questions for David?
David, so who is responsible for the embedded links in the staff report?
I generally am.
Thank you for that. For those who don't know, public, so you can click on the meeting and it'll pull you exactly to the YouTube meeting where we had that discussion in the meeting. It'll click on the December meeting. It'll give you the agenda that was discussed. It'll give you the exact Lake Stevens Municipal Code. Extraordinary transparency and ease of use. So thank you. It saves a lot of time for me when I'm researching, and I know it also helps our citizens when they're looking up at that. Thank you.
All right, thank you.
Any other questions for David? Hearing none, go ahead and enter into any discussion within the council. Nothing. All right. What is the wishes of the council?
I'll just say I'm struggling to support this moving forward. I think that the burden on the infrastructure is relevant. I think that looking at our city and the very few parcels of buildable land we have left, and knowing that we need to increase our density, I think that we have areas in our city where that makes more sense. And I think that it's zoned the way it is because the parcel off of 99th is a better fit for our city. So I'm struggling with how to support changing this.
Mayor
Greg, city attorney.
Okay, thank you. I just wanted to remind council of what David said at the beginning, is that this development agreement is just such a framework of what needs to be done if the applicant wants to be successful with their proposal, that they're going to have to jump through the hoops that are specified in the development agreement. And the second thing I wanted to say is that council should be careful. We are not making a decision tonight, a land use decision as to whether or not this project should go forward or not, or whether these things should happen or not, whether the rezone should be granted. Those decisions will be made in the rezone processes and the land use permitting that would be required for this project to go forward. The rezones will come back to you with the recommendation from the hearing examiner, and at that time then you would be involved in making a land use decision. But if you approve the development agreement, this doesn't approve that project. It doesn't approve either one of the rezones. This is just what's the framework for the applicant as to how they might proceed in order to go forward with their applications for development. So I just wanted to make that clear, that we're not making a decision. You're not making a decision tonight about whether this project goes forward or not. Those decisions would be made subsequently, whether they're made under the procedures that are set forth in this development agreement, or whether if the development agreement isn't approved, certainly the applicant can go forward and apply for rezones and land use permitting under the procedures in our code, independent of the development agreement. So that's just the words that I wanted to give you tonight. Thank you.
Any questions for Greg on those?
So David or Greg, I'm just going to try and crudely summarize what I've heard. If we approve this development agreement and this proceeds forward, the rezones occur, there's a potential benefit to the city. The city gets something. If we don't approve this, the rezone applications could still be submitted, potentially be approved, and then it happens anyway, but the city does not get something. Is that a fair, if not crude, assessment of where we're at?
can let Greg respond as well, but I would say that it doesn't necessarily mean that we wouldn't get anything if the development agreement, it would just be through a different process. It would be identified through our SEPA substantive authority, which we can still utilize. We made sure that there wasn't language that would preclude us from utilizing that in the future. It wouldn't be dependent on the terms of the development agreement. It would be something that would essentially be developed as part of each individual land use application, as opposed to this providing the central framework.
So 2 in the bush rather than 1 in the hand.
Essentially.
Okay. And if we approve this tonight, we are not approving the rezone, correct?
Correct.
Okay.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Okay. Desires of the council. We can do a motion to pass, we can do a motion to continue, we can do a motion to do nothing. We can motion,
I move to adopt the findings outlined in the staff report, approve land use application LUA 2025-0090 and authorize the mayor to sign the development agreement shown on attachment 1.
Second, if we can stall.
motion a segment, I think we need to wait
Yeah.
for Councilmember Ewing.
We could start discussion though, correct?
We can start discussion. Let's do it.
Let's do it.
Discuss. Is
I
there
thought
any
we just-
discussion?
Yeah, I thought we just discussed.
Well, the reason I'm putting it on the table is so we can get to the discussion portion of it. But I'm also cognizant of what a development agreement does. And it's the only thing we're really doing here is doing a development agreement and doesn't hurt us in any way. I also know that we're going to go forward with one way or the other with the zoning, maybe, maybe not, if we don't do a development agreement, because it also locks in our reasoning to the developer, giving them some kind of opportunity to have closure in what they want to do. So that's why I put it out there.
Really quick, go forward the zoning process, not the zone.
That's what I meant.
Okay, just to be
Zoning
clear.
process, yes.
Angie, go ahead.
I just would disagree that it doesn't, that there's no harm in moving forward. I think it opens a door that otherwise isn't open or is more difficult to move in that direction. And it gives, a sort of implicit, explicit approval, for lack of a better word, to move in this direction. And I don't know that that's a message that personally that I'm comfortable with giving.
I mean this in all sincerity, so please take it away. Can you explain what you mean by that? Because everything I've heard tonight is the zoning process could occur either way, and this doesn't really impact that other than potentially.
Then go through the zoning process. I don't feel like I, as a deciding member, as a council member, want to sort of give permission or to approve moving in this direction when I don't think this is the right direction to move in.
So I share a lot of your concerns about infrastructure. My only, I guess, difference on this is this the time to take them up? And I don't know.
Any other discussion?
Gary has his hand raised.
Gary, go ahead.
I have one question for Planner Leviton. You indicated that both these rezones would go through the SEPA process. Is there any likelihood, or I guess there's a chance that as this process moves forward, that something could be uncovered, which would, and I'm talking traffic mainly, that could burden these developments, I guess, with maybe more than just traffic impact fees, in the sense that as you evaluate the rezone, uncovered information could exist.
Yes, so the SEPA process would evaluate obviously more than just the traffic impacts. It would be required. And just to clarify, because both of these would not, because neither of these would require a land use application, a land use map amendment, modifying the comprehensive plan future land use map. At the rezone stage, they are exempt from SEPA. They are not exempt from SEPA at the project stage. And so there would be things that we would work out. We would do initial transportation analysis as part of the rezone. There doesn't need to be a SEPA threshold determination for the rezone because there is no land use map amendment required. But for site plan review, for building permit, for preliminary subdivision, all of that would be required to go through SEPA, and the city would reserve its right to require additional mitigation, whether that's related to traffic, whether it's related to stormwater, critical areas, a whole host of potential environmental impacts that are evaluated and identified through that SEPA checklist are then factored in to the SEPA threshold determination that the community development director, as a SEPA responsible official, has that authority to require all sorts of different mitigation.
Gary, did you have additional?
So as a follow-up to that, that is another avenue for the public to maybe question or present evidence that is contrary to what's being portrayed, in addition to the hearing examiner process, correct?
Correct. So there would be multiple opportunities for public comment. There'd be opportunities for public comment for each of the rezones. There would be opportunities for public comment for a preliminary subdivision on the K&A property on 99th. There would be opportunities for public comment as part of the SEPA threshold determination, which is sent out to a whole host of different parties. And then there is a comment period available both for SEPA and for the land use applications.
Okay, any other questions or discussion on the motion that's on the floor? Can we restate the motion for Councilmember Ewing?
I think Councilmember Daci basically read the staff report recommendations.
So the motion on the floor is to adopt the findings
Yeah.
outlined in the staff report, approve land use application, Lincoln Union Adam 2025-0090, and authorize the mayor to sign the development agreement
Correct.
shown in attachment 1, which would then be recorded with Snohomish County. Nathan.
Discussion on the matter. I appreciate some of the other concerns. What I look at is just that, yeah, you're essentially transferring density. We're not losing density. We're not adding it. We're just transferring it. It's all within the same basic geographic region. I actually prefer it on South Lake as opposed to on 99th. I think it fits better there, is my personal opinion. But it's all close, right? It's all next to Tom Thumb. It's all in that general area. If one of these sites was up here, for example, and it's a fundamental difference in where that density is going, I'd have bigger concerns, but I'm not overly concerned. The infrastructure is a real thing that we have to make sure that we do the due diligence on and address, but assuming that can be addressed, I'm not opposed to it.
Any further discussion? All right, I'll go ahead and call for the vote. All those in favor for the motion, say aye.
Aye.
And any opposed?
Opposed.
Okay, just one opposed?
Yeah. Councilmember Peter Sagan, were you an aye or a no?
Yes, I was. Yes, I was.
You were an aye. You were a
Yes.
yes? Okay, thank you.
Yes.
Thank you.
We have 5 other agenda action items. They should be kind of short, quickly. So can I get a motion to extend the meeting no further than 8:30, please?
I move to extend the meeting to 8:30.
Second.
Any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
And my opposed?
Opposed.
Thank you. 2 opposed. Motion passes
Sorry.
to extend to
Angie and I
8:30.
Thank you. Thank you.
And let's go ahead with 12A, resolution number 2025-13, naming the Marcus Tagent Interpretive Trail. Russ Wright.
Okay, good evening, Council. Russ Wright, Community Development Director. So a more lighthearted topic for you to discuss now, and it also goes along with the context of the meeting tonight, which is remembrance. As you all know, we lost Councilmember Tagent earlier this year, and at one of the council meetings, the council had discussed its priority or wish to name a city facility after Councilmember Tagent. Some of the things that were talked about were a park or a recreation feature. And as staff deliberated, as we've considering our city campus, there is an outdoor interpretive trail that really portrays both parts of the council members' passions, one towards civic engagement and being a public service, and the other is outdoor recreation. So with that, we are bringing forward the idea of naming the interpretive trail at the new city campus in honor of Marcus Tagent. And the trail is shown in attachment 2, so it's pretty basic trail. It would have some amenities. There's a bridge, landscaping, and probably would have some sort of reflective bench or seating area. So with that, I will turn it over to the council if you have any questions or comments tonight.
Any questions or comments? Hearing none, can I get a motion?
I would like to move to approve resolution number 2025-13 to name the interpretive public trail at the new city campus, the Marcus Tagent Interpretive Trail.
Second.
Okay, I have a motion, a second, and real quickly, just my comments on this. This was a great opportunity, great idea to recognize the contributions of Marcus to our community. If you don't know, he used to catch bluegill in the little pond that trail will be adjacent to. So very fitting honor. Any discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor?
Aye.
And any opposed? Great. Thank you for your work on that, Russ. Let's continue with you on a bid award for the long-awaited Lake Stevens Historical Museum and Retail Building.
What the mayor said. So we're bringing forward tonight a proposal to accept Valdez Construction as the low bidder and to award the project to Valdez and then to set a final budget for the museum project. As mentioned, this has been envisioned now going back to 2018 when we started the downtown sub-area plan. With that plan, it had always been a keystone that we would create a regional attractor, which would replace the old historical museum, and it would be front and center on Mill Spur. So what's in front of you tonight would bring that forward. We've talked about this several times over the last couple of years. We've had extensive coordination with the Historical Society, as well as the council members who are liaisons and the greater council as a whole. We've gone through a budget after the bids and have a budget for you tonight of about $5.4 million. And the budget comes from various funds that the council has looked at over the years, REIT, pandemic recovery, the bonds that we've taken out for this project and other capital projects. So with that, I would just look to the council to approve the contract to Valdez Construction and to adopt the final project budget. Again, happy to take any questions or comments from the council tonight.
Any questions of Russ?
Well, we have been working on this a long time. This is something that we, several years ago, when we started doing all the downtown development here with the mill and everything else, we took down the museum. We promised a museum. We promised that we would have a good place for our veterans to go down and reflect on some of the losses that we've had in the military from Lake Stevens. We've promised several things, and we've now coming around to one of those last promises, and we need to get it done.
Any other discussion?
So with that, I would move to approve Valdez Construction as a selected contractor for Lake Stevens Historical Museum and Retail Building and adopt a final project budget not to exceed $5,380,901.
Second.
Okay, I have a motion and a second. And
Second?
go ahead, Gary.
Second?
Oh, that was a second.
Yes.
Any discussion on the motion? My assumption is that the Historical Society would like to get out of the little place and get into a bigger place. That's probably not wet. Or who knows what? Spiders. Oh, yeah. Oh, we got to do this quick. No spiders. Perfect. With that, I'll call for the vote. All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Great.
Thank you,
Let's build a
council.
museum. Let's get that thing built. Love it. All right, with that, let's move to Lakeview Flats Development Agreement termination. Christie.
Yes, good evening, City Council. Christy Schmidt, Planning Manager. I am bringing back before you this evening the Resolution 2512. This is the Lakeview Flats Development Termination Agreement for the development agreement. This would repeal Resolution 2022-08. This was the original development agreement that was approved by the City Council back on June 21st, back in 22. The DA that's currently in place is set to expire in June 27. So it does have a couple more years left into effect. However, the applicant, due to the economy, as briefed in the last study session, is looking forward to downscaling the development and has asked and requested to terminate the current DA. And before you today, you should have received an email from the owner and the applicant who was here earlier this evening but had to depart due to a previous commitment. And so there is a letter here from him stating that he does support and is asking council approval to terminate the current DA in effect. So with that, I would like to turn it back to the council for any questions of staff.
Any questions, staff?
Just to clarify, this development agreement goes away, but then a new development agreement would have to be created prior to building or no?
No, it wouldn't. And that's a very good question. We have discussed this with the applicant. What they're looking at currently proposing is allowed outright per the development code. So they're asking for the termination of the current DA so they can simply develop within the confines of the existing development regulations that the city has in place.
Any other questions? Hearing none, can I entertain a motion, please?
Move to approve resolution 2025-15 to repeal resolution 2022-08 and terminate development agreement with Lakeview Platts LLC.
All right, I have a motion. Do I have a second?
Second.
And a second. Any discussion on the motion? Hearing none, all those in favor?
Aye.
I'm sorry.
Aye.
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 All right, let's try that again. All those in favor, say aye.
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 Any opposed?
Nay.
No.
2 opposed. You get them? All right, motion passes. Let's go forward with the Eric Mangold, 131st Avenue Infrastructure Improvements Construction Contract Award.
Good evening, council. My name is Eric Mangold. I am the interim city engineer and capital projects manager for Public Works. Tonight, we're bringing to you the action for the 131st Avenue Infrastructure Improvements Project. This project was identified in our council adopted 6-year capital improvement plan, and it has been included in the adopted 2025 budget. And we will be rolling it forward into the adopted budget of 2026. The design of this project began in about late 2024. This project is going to bring a sewer main down 131st Avenue, which is right by our public works shop. We're going to be tying into the existing sewer main that there's a small development that went down there. We're going to be picking up where that started and going all the way to Hartford Drive, which will help develop sewer stubs and manholes along 131st. This is going to span from Hartford Drive and allow for future sewer development along Old Hartford. So this will help our industrial area. We also are going to be putting in a multi-use path along the west side of the road, the southbound lane. This is going to have a bioswale for low impact stormwater treatment. So this is a very cool way for us to have basically an off ramp from the Centennial Trail to bring people off of the trail down to downtown for our future economic development. So it's really exciting to have this. It'll be really make that road more traversable for pedestrians and really give people a way to get into town, which is really exciting for us. This project had an identified capital budget of $1.8 million with funding coming from the Stormwater Capital Fund, Real Estate Excise Tax 2, REIT 2, our traffic impact zone fees, and we have a recorded ILA with the sewer district that they will also be cost sharing the sewer portion of this project up to $600,000 of the project. We put the bid out to, we put the project out to bid and we received 13 bids on this project, which was really exciting. That's the most I've seen since I've been here with the city in the last 7 years. So that's really cool. We're definitely generating a lot of buzz for this. The low bid came in under budget at $1.2 million, which was under the $1.6 million engineer's estimate. So even better for us. And the contractor is Reese Construction Company, who we've worked with in the past, and we've had great success with them. They do great work. We're really excited about having a contractor in town now that's actually, we know what we're going to get from them. And so that's a very exciting thing for us. They're a local contractor, Reese is. They're a local contractor, and we've worked with them a ton of times, and we really enjoy the work that they do. So we really eagerly anticipate this project's kickoff. We'll start with a pre-construction meeting after the contract award. And in that meeting, we will identify when the contractor wants to begin. We anticipate through conversations we've had with them already that they'll want to start as soon as the weather gets good. So I'm anticipating February, March-ish when we want to get started on this project. And it has a 95 working day process. So that's just about 6 months that will take to get done. So by the summer, we'll have new sewer and new multi-use paths. And so with this, we're asking for a motion from council to authorize the mayor to sign the construction contract with Reese Construction for the 131st Avenue Infrastructure Improvements Project.
Okay, any questions for
Hey, Eric, so $1,100 per linear foot. How does that compare to the industry average? Meaning does this project present any unique circumstances that would raise or lower the linear foot cost?
At this time, I don't propose that it does. I don't think that it has any kind of unique perspective. I know that our engineer's estimate came in at $1.6 million. They did a great job of that because all of the majority of the bids of those 13 bids came in right around that $1.7 million range. So it sounds like the Pace engineers who did our design really did their due diligence and found like a really good cost estimate. And so that's a really, really exciting thing. And it's something that you don't find very often these days with cost estimates from engineers.
The reason I asked that, because that's double the cost. The last time I remember us getting a linear foot cost for sewer. And so when we talk about escalating costs, I mean, it was $550 a foot the last time we had something like this before us. And so but that's prevailing costs, and that's what it is.
Yeah, this will be, as far as I know, this will be the first sewer project that I've seen and that the city has performed. And so I don't have a whole lot of information on that, but it seems to be that is about what the going rate is.
Thank you.
Gary?
Yes, Eric, just a quick question. This new sewer line will facilitate the Public Works facility to get off the septic system and allow for expansion of that facility, correct?
Yeah, we will be performing, the sewer will install stubs out to every property along the way. So yes, this will give us a chance to connect the Public Works shop to this new sewer line and get rid of our drain field.
All right, great. Thank you.
This also creates the opportunity to get sewer across Machias, which those property owners are anticipating soon so that they can do some higher use stuff with their property on the other side of Machias. Any other questions for Eric? Can I entertain a motion?
I move to authorize the mayor to sign the Public Works contract with Reese Construction for the construction of the 131st Avenue Infrastructure Improvement Project.
Second.
Okay, I have a motion and a second. Any discussion on the motion? Hearing none. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
And any opposed? All right, great work on that, Eric. It'll be fun to watch that get moving.
Yeah, thank you, council.
Okay, we're going to come back with 12E. You might recognize this from last week in the ordinance 1209. One of the things that we failed last week is we actually needed to have 4 votes on that, 4 yes votes on that ordinance, and we only had 3. So by RCW, we are going to have to bring this back, which is what you are seeing. And what you see before you was the debates, right? So option number 1 is the bill original. And option number 2 is the
Revised.
what you guys ended up actually voting for. So those are your 2 options ahead of you. David, if you could be concise.
Yeah, so I think that's a really good summary, and I don't think that we need an overview or a PowerPoint, but basically because we do need to have a new action, staff prepared two ordinances. Attachment one is the ordinance that was presented to you last week. And that basically reflected the original ordinance that was shared on December 2nd with some additional tweaks to the definition of transitional housing to basically spell out who typically operates them, what their purpose is. And so that is the only change that was proposed as part of attachment one. At your meeting, 3 out of 5, so a majority of those present, but not of the entire council, approved an ordinance that incorporated language that shifted transitional housing to a type 2 land use application, which it was already proposed for emergency housing and emergency shelter. There was a friendly amendment from staff that had added in necessary changes to Chapter 1440, which is permissible uses, and Chapter 1472, which is parking. We had failed to account for some necessary changes to other chapters, Chapter 1416A, and then Chapter 1438, which is subareas. We basically needed to make similar changes to the list of permissible uses within Chapter 1438, which regulates subareas and basically supersedes Chapter 1440. And so the attachment 2 incorporates additional changes above and beyond what was passed by the 3 council members out of the 5 that were present. Some of the additional changes include to account for the incorporation of transitional housing into that type 2 permit and that type 2 land use application process. We've included an additional definition of what's called bridge housing. So that would be in Chapter 1408. So that would basically bridge housing, a type 2 bridge housing permit would be required for transitional housing, for emergency housing, and for emergency shelters. It spells out some of the changes needed, some additional footnotes within the permissible use table within Chapter 1440. It notes that a site management plan, which was already proposed to be required for emergency housing and emergency shelter, that would be required for transitional housing. But because transitional housing is considered a type of affordable housing, that they would not be subject to the required parking analysis. Per state law, we can't require parking above and beyond the associated building type. So whether that's a single family residence, a duplex, an apartment building, townhomes, basically transitional housing would be treated slightly different when it comes to parking, but it would essentially go through that site management process and that site management plan requirement that applies to emergency housing and emergency shelter. So that's all reflected in attachment 2, which was intended to capture all of the discussion from the 3 out of 5 council members that had made that motion, and where we had that procedural error. So the choice before council tonight, and the public hearing has not been reopened. We just need a new action. Basically, the option for the council tonight is to make a motion to adopt attachment 1, to adopt attachment 2, which reflects all the changes, or to make revisions to the ordinance to incorporate some, all, none of the proposed changes or any additional changes requested by council. And with that, I'm happy to answer any questions.
Any questions for David? Nothing.
No, but I have a comment,
You may comment.
not a question for David. For the council members who were not present last week, I just want to highlight that the Planning Commission did recommend the original ordinance, attachment 1. And I think they put a lot of work into really sort of drilling down and looking at whether or not a type 2 process was necessary or not for transitional housing. I continue to feel as though that is an unnecessary step and barrier in the development of transitional housing in our city. I'm happy to speak more to that, but I continue to be opposed to the revised ordinance and would like to support the original ordinance as recommended by our planning commission.
May I get a motion?
I will make a motion to adopt ordinance 1209, attachment number 2.
Second.
I just want to check with staff. That would be correct. He doesn't need attachment 1 and 2.
No, so the motion could have, it could have been someone making a motion to approve attachment 1 or attachment 2. There's basically 2 versions of the ordinance.
Okay, so we have a motion on the floor and a second discussion on the motion.
Go ahead.
For me, having been bludgeoned for 6 months about lack of transparency, I feel it's important that type 2 does allow for the public to be aware and to have input and have that transparency. I think it's also important to know like which owners and operators are going to be benefiting and profiting if there's a conflict of interest. And so I think it's important, name of transparency, that we have that type 2 development. I agree with Councilmember Jorstad as far as the concerns there about impacting that. But I think transparency is just really, really important. I think something the council continues to improve on, and I'd like to see that going forward.
You need another discussion?
Yeah, so I did listen to the section of the meeting twice to make sure I followed all of it. I'm not a fan of the increased oversight and process that a type 2 would entail, right? If transparency is your primary concern, I would propose that you could adopt ordinance 1 with an amendment that simply provides public notice, right? There's the ability to get the communication and awareness of what's happening and make people aware, but without all of the extra government that would be needed in a type 2. So I would not be in favor of a full type 2 process. If you'd like transparency, I think there are other ways to do that without adding other complexity.
Okay, any other discussion?
Yeah, I would respond. For me, transparency is not my only concern. I feel the type 2 does 3 things. It provides that notice, but then it also provides an opportunity for public input. And then it also gives the city additional, tools to make sure that what is proposed at these sites is what actually occurs there. As I mentioned last meeting, Olympia has given us some really, in my opinion, less than desirable definitions. I feel like there's a lot of gray area there, and I am not a fan of the let it in, see how it develops, and then if there's a problem, citizens can, call and report nuisance activity. I think it's much better for the city to establish some guidelines, some guardrails, and be a good partner, but just make sure that what we're told is going in. And I do not feel that that is an overly unreasonable burden in any sense. I feel like that's just good governance and what our citizens have clearly asked for in this last election cycle.
Any other discussion?
Roll call.
I don't want to roll call. Can you restate the motion?
I think the motion was to pass ordinance 1209 attachment 2.
Correct. So with that, let's do a roll call vote.
Councilmember Daughtry,
Aye.
Councilmember Peter Sagan,
Aye.
Councilmember Jorstad,
No.
Councilmember Packard,
No.
Councilmember Donahue,
Aye.
Councilmember Ewing,
Aye.
Councilmember Shipman.
Aye.
It passes.
Okay, we have a motion to pass. Appreciate the council's work on that as well as staff's work as well. And with that, I would ask for a motion to adjourn.
Make a motion to adjourn?
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Thanks everyone for your work.